Question number 6 you've kind of alluded to already, and that would be, who should be responsible to follow up on approved plans, such as the fire services plan that's recently been approved, to make sure that they're working, to make sure that they are achieving the projected savings and results that were proposed?
Yeah, like I said, the city council is responsible for making sure that the city carries forward in a prudent manner.
So, council is responsible. Okay, next question. What is your position on the street sweeping parking resolution 2009.64?
Boy, oh boy, this ordinance is, I find pretty unpopular. Not only do my friends and family seem to be pretty upset with it, but when I knock doors, generally, it seems to be the #1 issue that people bring up. We just want to be able to park our car. I think we need to really have a look at this ordinance, and it needs to be changed. It's not working.
Next question. As taxpayer dollars certainly fund city services and city purchases, and should there be more intention to seek competitive bids instead of recently we've seen some sole source contracts, and that relates to how a council member might conduct independent research versus staff recommendations on certain council items.
Okay, I think what you're alluding to, Tom, is the solar energy project and how that project was approved by the city council without going out to bid. As a general practice, that's approving a project without going out to bid is unacceptable. It's actually against the law for city governments. And as a business owner, or a previous business owner, I would never look into a project without getting other bids to make sure I'm getting the best price. Now, in reference to the solar energy project, this project was different. It was state law allowed city governments to be able to enter into a project such as this without going out to bid. Now, that sort of situation makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable. Going into such a big project, I think about $17 million, without making sure we're getting the best price, made me feel a little uncomfortable. However, looking at the project itself, realizing the savings that we'll be seeing on a yearly and over a 25-year span, even though it's difficult to know whether or not we got the best price and the best plan, it's a good plan.
Next question. The council has, over almost a 10-year period now, the council has amended the Boys and Girls Club lease as many as 5 times. Current lease for the unfinished club expires in December this year. Would you explain your understanding of the issues involved here and describe what action, if any, might be taken come January 1st?
Tom, we're talking about kids here, and I've always told my staff that works for me at the pool that kids are sacred. So when we're talking about taking care of kids, we need to look at this situation with utmost care. As far as the specific legal situation with the Boys and Girls Club, the Boys and Girls Club has not, they're still in compliance with the lease. And so I think it would be foolish to take any action until we know whether or not the Boys and Girls Club are going to stand up to their side of the bargain. So I guess my answer, Tom, is that we need to see if they can comply with the lease by December 31st. I think think it's highly likely that they will. I mean, they built a $2, $3, $4 million building over there. And I don't think they're going to walk away from it.
Very good. Next question. You received in advance of this meeting a document which identifies some line item costs for Bray's IT division. In that particular document indicates as much as $5.3 million for the IT division. That aggregates to Bray IT having a cost of as much as $140 per resident versus as little as $10 a resident at neighboring cities. What is your position on Bray IT and the value we receive from this expenditure? And would you support an audit of this enterprise to determine if the enterprise profit that's within the city documents is real?
Okay. I've had a look at this document a couple of times. Let me start from the beginning, okay? Let's say I own a business and I walk around town saying, my business, makes $7 million, okay? The important question to ask when somebody says that is are those gross profits or net profits, okay? If you walk around town saying that you make $7 million, but it costs you $8 million to make that $7 million, you're $1 million short, and that business is not viable, okay? However, if you walk around town saying you made $7 million and it cost you $5 million to make that money, you made a $2 million profit, okay? The problem with this document is that it shows the gross costs of the IT and not the net costs. If you look right here on budgeted, it says that Bray IT costs us $5.6 million. And the three columns to the left of it outline Buena Park, Placentia, and La Mirada as cities that we outsource and we take care of their IT for them. What's interesting is that Buena Park pays $500,000, Placentia pays $300,000, La Mirada pays $300,000, but those dollars aren't reconciled with the $5 million figure. So my point is that Bray IT, the IT department, costs $5 million, but this document doesn't show how much money it makes from all of the cities that we contract out to. So this figure, this $5.6 million figure, needs to be reconciled with how much money we make from all the other cities. So again, to talk to my example, if Bray IT costs us $5.6 million, but the cities that we contract out pay us $7.6 million to do those contracts, well, we're $1 million ahead, okay? If Bray IT costs us $5.6 million and the money that comes in from all the contracts that we take care of costs less, or is less than $5.6 million, well then that figure is how much money should be attributed to the Bray taxpayers. Okay.
So just to follow on to that, and just for clarity, would you recommend then, in terms of transparency, some audit that might provide this purported enterprise value to the citizens? In other words, are the citizens of Bray subsidizing other communities' IT, or is there real value in that?
Of course, I support an audit of any financial endeavors taken on by the city. In this case, I think the real number that needs to be shown on this document is that Bray IT costs $5.6 million, and I'd like to see the revenue that generates from other cities subtracted from that figure, and then we'll know how much Bray IT really costs Bray taxpayers.
Next question. One of the most powerful roles that a city council member plays is as a member of the redevelopment agency. Could you give us kind of a brief understanding of how that agency works, and then identify maybe some ways that, some practical ways that you direct the redevelopment agency in their expenditures.
Redevelopment is an interesting concept. I find that it gets a little convoluted, a little complicated for the average voter to understand why our city budget is running in a depth, or we have a shortfall, and yet we're building new crosswalks here, new sidewalks here, or new buildings there. What's important to understand is that the Brea General Fund is legally a separate entity from the redevelopment agency. And state law allows city governments to define redevelopment zones to improve those areas, generally downtown areas, to improve those areas. And what happens is, when a district is deemed a redevelopment zone, the base tax rate is taken at that moment. Okay? Then, in that area, cities endeavor into improving that property. And what happens is, the tax base in that area increases. The money, the difference between what the tax base was before the redevelopment zone was enacted to the money that we make above that goes back into the redevelopment fund. Now, wouldn't it be nice to be able to use that money and put it into the general fund? Well, it's illegal. That money needs to stay for redevelopment purposes, meaning improving redevelopment zones. So as far as the way our redevelopment agent is progressing, they're obviously progressing according to law, and I think they're doing a fine job.
Very good. Next question. And we've alluded to this already in some of your responses. As a member of council, how would you ensure that staff members are accountable for their job duties in terms of performance against job descriptions and therefore earn their salaries?
I apologize, Tom. That seems like a very simple question. I would monitor their performance, and if they're not doing their job, take action.
So follow on to that then, do you feel that staff performance reviews, incentive plans and bonuses should be well documented, and some degree of transparency within the city? In other words, should those things be included in their personnel files and be available to for review?
Compensation of city staff should be available for public review.